This is the most inclusive course on cotton fiber to fabric quality and manufacturing. It reflects more than 30 years of experience by one of the top scientists and utmost experts in the field of cotton research and textiles. Please be aware that what you will see is only very small pieces of some parts of the course. This course is over 40 hours in total. As you will see, the course uses direct teaching by the speaker, slideshows and real videos of all processing from harvesting and ginning to spinning and weaving. The course comes with all videos and hard copy of slideshows. An e-copy of one of Dr. Elmogah's ebooks also come with the course. Again, these are only few clips. A complete course should be ordered via Amazon.com using the title, the author, and the code number of the course.
The first part of this course is an introduction of critical concepts of fiber to yarn engineering and cost optimization. The second part deals with fiber characteristics such as fiber fineness, fiber length, fiber maturity, fiber strength, neps, and cotton stickiness. The third part deals with yarn characteristics such as yarn count, twist, strength, irregularity, and imperfections. All characteristics are discussed in the context of measurements and impacts on fabric quality. The fourth part deals with fiber processing, starting with harvesting and ginning and going into cotton mixing and blending. All stages of spinning preparation including opening and cleaning, carding, drawing, combing, and moving are covered in great details. Different types of spinning such as ring spinning, compact spinning, rotor open end spinning, and friction spinning. The course will also cover effects of yarn and fiber characteristics on textile fabrics.
So, challenges facing the fiber to yarn conversion system. The number one challenge is the cost of raw material. Every spinner in the world understands that raw material represents a significant portion of the total yarn manufacturing cost. Every spinner knows that. But what we all need to understand is that the value of raw material is not fully reflected in the value of yarn. Meaning that despite the high contribution of the cost of raw material to the overall yarn manufacturing cost, an increase in the price of raw material today will not result in an increase in the price of yarn or retail product tomorrow. Why? Simply because the marketplace will not allow such a corresponding correlation. To explain this a little bit, a cost of raw material with respect to the overall cost of yarn manufacturing may actually range from about 50% to 70%. The cost of yarn with respect to the overall manufacturing cost of a retail textile product may range from 30 to 60%. This is a very significant cost, and you may want to do your own calculations to find out exactly what is or where you fit in this range here. That is, how much the cost of your raw material contribute to the overall yarn manufacturing cost. Following this scheme here, if we look at the value now, what we will find that the correlation between the value of fibers or cotton and the value of yarn is almost insignificant. And the correlation between the value of yarn and the retail product is also insignificant. One exception to that is the very, very fine yarn, which has a very specific market niche. So we know that we're making this fine yarn to be used in high quality product. And even with that, the exception is not so much of an exception, because the correlation there would be about 0.6 to 0.7 correlation. What does this correlation means? Well, to illustrate the meaning of this correlation, let us go back to 1994, when the cotton price was doubled from 55, 60 cents a pound, all the way up to almost $1.05, $1.10 per pound. That was a substantial increase that took place in a very short period of time. During the same time, what happened to the yarn price? Almost nothing. It stays the same, and in many cases it was declining. So that is the dilemma that we face here. This is the challenge that we face here, is that the spinner today, the margin of profit to the spinner today is highly vulnerable to the swinging price in the raw material. The raw material price can double tomorrow, but that will not be reflected in the yarn value in the marketplace. So this is something that we ought to think about it a little bit and see how can we narrow the gap between the cost-to-cost correlation and the value-to-value correlation. This is a simple pie chart that we did in a textile mill producing a rotor yarn of English count 20. And as you can see here, the cotton cost contribution was as high as 74% to the overall cost of the yarn manufacturing. The other 20%, 26% was distributed over other sources of cost, such as depreciation, supplies, packing, power, miscellaneous, labor, fringes, and so on. I urge you to repeat this pie chart in your facilities to see exactly what is the cost contribution of raw material to your overall yarn manufacturing cost. We have a major contribution of the cost of raw material to our end product, yet the value of the raw material is not fully reflected in the value of the yarn. How can we close this gap is very, very important. And perhaps the first step to close this gap is to start looking at the sources of cost, because cost of raw material is not just the price of raw material, but there are other factors that add to the cost. Sources of cost. What makes the cost of raw material that high? Well, the one obvious reason is the price of raw material. We are all happy when cotton is cheap. Not only that, the cotton department or the people that buy the cotton try their very best to look for discount cotton. And that's why sometimes we have a problem, because you buy a discount cotton and then you find out that it was not all that discount, because what you saved in the raw material is quite often reflected in a cost added in manufacturing and processing. So we need to be very careful in that. But price is the number one factor contributing to the cost of raw material. But there are other sources. Look at the waste. This is a major opportunity for all of us to reduce the cost of raw material. The fact is, waste is larger than ever. The reason for that is the high-speed technology we have today. At high speed, the segregation between trash particles and fibers, sometimes good fibers, is not as good as it is at low speed. So as a result of that, our waste today has a great deal of fibers, and I'm talking good fibers. The other source, which not many of us are or think about that much, is the fiber to yarn conversion efficiency. You know, we need to ask ourselves whether we really utilizing the raw material into a yarn to its ultimate potential. And you know, to give you an example that many spinners is familiar with, is that look at the strength ratio. Look at the yarn strength versus fiber strength. We call it strength efficiency. you will find that the yarn strength to fiber strength efficiency range typically between 55% to 95%. In other words, some companies are able to convert the strength of the fibers almost perfectly to the strength of the yarn. Others are not. So here is the key issue here. Are we really converting the fiber attributes to a yarn attribute in the sense that we can utilize all these attributes in the yarn characteristics? What is our efficiency of conversion? This is a key issue. And we must look at this seriously, because if we're going to pay premium price to the fibers, then we might as well finish the job by trying to use the fibers or utilize the fibers to their ultimate potentials in the yarn. In other words, do not buy a high quality fibers and they produce a low quality yarn. And believe me, this happens quite often in our industry. So sources of cost of raw material involve price, waste, and the fiber to yarn conversion system. You need to look at this very carefully, because for a company producing a certain product, when they go out and shop for raw material, they have a very narrow range of raw material. They know exactly what raw material they need. So if you compare in between two companies, both are producing denim, for example, or towels or sheets or whatever, we will find that these two companies, when they go out, they actually look for fiber attributes that are within very similar ranges. So what distinguishes between this company and that company would be actually the other aspects, the waste and the fiber to yarn conversion efficiency. This is what makes one company more superior or better than another, especially when it comes to the profit making. So you need to keep that in mind, and we will look at that in great detail in this course.